Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Zay and today I'm going to be talking about backlist romances that I love. I have a fun video for you guys because today I'm going to be talking about some backlist books, romance books that I absolutely love. I've been planning this video for quite a while. I've been trying to come up with some books because I think I mentioned in my 5-star predictions video that I want to start reading more backlist romances and stuff like that. And that's because last year, whenever I read backlist romances, I absolutely loved them. And I just definitely want to start prioritizing finishing series that I've wanted to read and just reading authors' backlists. And anyway, I was inspired to do this video because I was on Audible and I saw that Forever Right Now by Emma Scott is available to listen to through the Audible subscription. And that book has been on my TBR for the longest, and I just started looking back at some of the backlist books that I love, and it inspired this video. So I'm very excited to talk about these books. These are the creme de la creme, some of my favorites. Let me know if you guys want a part 2, because there are so many books that I had on my list, and I had to cut them out because it's just too long. So anyway, let's get into these recommendations. So because I mentioned Emma Scott, I'm just going to start with an Emma Scott book, and that is The Beautiful Hearts Duet. First book is Bring Down the Stars and Long Live the Beautiful Heart. Underrated favorite by her. So in this book, this book is kind of a love triangle, but it's kind of not. It's kind of its own kind of unique thing, but it does kind of have a love triangle in there. Just throwing that out there, just in case. I know there are people who don't like love triangles, but this is just a little bit different. Connor and Weston have been best friends for quite a long time, and Connor's family is pretty well off, so they've kind of accepted Weston as a part of the family. So these two go to the same college together, really excited to go to college together. And Weston meets this girl, her name is Autumn, and he is interested in Autumn pretty much right away. But so is his best friend Connor. So here's the thing, Weston really loves poetry, but he's actually, he's majoring in something that's more sensible that he can get a career in, but he does love poetry. And Connor has Weston kind of writing things to Autumn, expressing how he feels about her. But it's really Weston who's doing this, and Autumn is slowly falling for Connor. But she doesn't know that Weston is the person that she's really connecting over, and she's falling over his words. Like I said, it's a duet, so obviously the first book ends on a crazy cliffhanger, but it is an emotional journey, and I love this book so much. This is new adult college romance, and it's just angsty, forbidden goodness, and I absolutely love this one. Can't recommend it enough. And I just remember that I read this one right after reading her Full Tilt Duet, and I was like, okay, she's a new favorite. Need to read everything that this woman has ever written. Elanor and Grey by Brittany Cherry. So this is actually my first book by Brittany Cherry, and it is my favorite book by her. A, because it's amazing, but 2, it makes me so nostalgic because she's one of my favorite authors. But also, this is a second chance romance, and honestly, this is the blueprint to all second chance romances for me. Like, this is what I compare every single second chance romance to. And I read this one quite a while ago, like in 2020, and this one came out in 2018, I believe. Yeah, I did. And I still love it. I remember this book pretty much vividly. It's just one of my favorite romances of all time. I love it so much. So this book kind of has the past and present chapters, so if you don't like that, the present chapters don't take up too much. I don't even think they take up half of the book. So, but this book does start out where we get to see how Elanor and Grey meet and kind of their beginning of their relationship, just kind of laying down the foundation of these characters. Last, we have Elanor. So Eleanor's family is kind of going through it. Her mom has been diagnosed, I believe she's diagnosed with cancer. And her and her family are really, really close. It's just her dad, and her mom. They're all very close, and she's struggling. Now, Elanor is quiet. She's like the kind of girl who reads during parties and stuff like that. And she meets Grey, or Grayson, and he is very popular at school. But Grey has also experienced loss recently. Him and Elanor form a friendship and a connection, and it turns into these two falling in love with each other and being each other's first loves. And so Elanor moves across the country and then she attends college. So these two lose touch. Some years go by. Elanor has accepted a position to be a nanny. It is Grayson's family, so he recently lost his wife and he needs some help with his girls. And Gray is very different than the young boy that she knew that helped her and brought so much joy into her life. He is cold and grumpy and he has just gone through it, and he's actually turned into the person that he tried so hard not to turn into. He's really having a hard time being a dad, losing his wife, balancing out working. He's just this completely different than the person that she once knew. So because he stood by her side and helped her through her hard times, she is returning that favor to Gray. And in the process, they fall for each other, even though Gray is fighting it. But they reconnect, and it's just a second chance at love. Anyway, I loved these two. I just remember that this was such a beautiful romance. And this book is just really, really special. I don't know. I feel like when I was making this list, I was actually getting excited, but also kind of sad because I just don't really think there are a lot of books that make me feel like the books on this list do. And so this right here literally just can't express enough how much I love this book. It is literally one of my all-time favorite books. And also it has a single dad nanny romance, which I do have another book on my list that is single dad nanny. I love that trope with everything in me. It is just one of my favorites ever. And this is one of the best. So I love this book. I also want to mention that there's like a spinoff from this book, and it's a duet. And I realized that I have a lot of duets on the list that I could have included. Let me know if you guys want me to do a video on duets, because there's actually so many. And when I was putting my list together, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna stick to one duet. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that. But go read this book if you haven't. If you like emotional, angsty, if you like Brittany Cherry, you'll really like this one. So cannot recommend this one enough. It is the best second chance romance that I've ever read. Yes, I said that. Best second chance romance that you'll ever read. So the next book is Anotic King by Karina Halley. This is also a single dad nanny romance. Okay, I love them. This is actually the book that made me obsessed with them. When I was making this list, I was like, I'm pretty sure that this is the blueprint. This is the book that made me love this trope so much. It is still to this day, and I've been reading romance exclusively since 2018. So to this day, single dad nanny romance are my favorite, and it is all thanks to Anotic King by Karina Halley. So this is a royal romance. It's actually a part of a series. You can absolutely read this as a standalone. I have not read any of the other books in the series. So in this book, we're following Aurora, and Aurora gets the opportunity to interview for a nanny position, and she actually finds out that when she gets the job that she'll be nannying for two princesses. So their dad, his name is King Axel. He's a widowed king in Denmark, and he needs some help with his girls. So she moves to Copenhagen and she becomes a nanny for the royal family. And her and King Axel, they butt heads, okay? But she does not back down, and she gives it right back to him. And they have this really fun dynamic, this fun back and forth. Just cannot help but to fall for her, even though he is cold and broody. She just kind of breaks down his walls, and she's also falling in love with his girls. And I loved like this little family that they all created, and the special connection that she has with the other two girls. Now this is forbidden because this is royal romance, and I love that aspect of the story as well. And it just made it so complicated because it's like technically single dad nanny romances are workplace romances, and it's one thing to fall for your boss, but it's another thing to fall for a king. So it is a good OG single dad nanny romance, one of the best. If you like this trope, I cannot recommend this one enough. Okay, so the next book we have is Revery by Candy Steiner. So I love Candy Steiner's angsty romance era. I miss it so much. She has written so many of my favorite angsty romances, but this is a book that not a lot of people talk about, and I think it is worth mentioning, especially because it is cozy, small town romance. I think a lot of people will enjoy this one. This book we're following Ren, and Ren has recently gone through a divorce. Now her relationship was quite toxic and unhealthy, and she just kind of needs to get away as she's dealing with the emotions from her divorce and everything that she went through. So she decides to spend a summer in a cabin in this small town, and her neighbor Anderson Damaged hero. He's, again, kind of moody. There's a trend in these books with these men. That's another story. Maybe I need to figure out why that's the case. But anyway, Anderson is, like I said, he's quite broody, and he's our damaged hero. Something happens an accident happened a few years ago, and he blames himself from it. And because of that, he has secluded himself, closed himself off from all his friends and his family. He's just kind of determined to punish himself and to just live his life in isolation. Anderson and Rin are like magnets. They just have this pull to each other, and no matter how hard Anderson tries to fight their connection, he just can't help but give in. And he's so drawn to her. And both of these characters are so broken. They've gone through things in their lives, but they find solace within each other. And I just love this book so much. Like I said, very cozy, cabin feels. Great book to read during the fall. This does take place during the summer, and it is getting warmer, so this is a good one to read if you want something that's kind of like that. But it is angsty, emotional, and absolutely beautiful writing by Candy Sandra. Wait for it, by Mariana Zapata. So listen, again, this is one of those books by an author that I think is underrated. Following Diana, and Diana went from being a aunt to a mom pretty much overnight, and now she has custody over her 2 nephews, and it has taken her a couple years, but she thinks she's kind of gotten this down. This has not been easy, but now she's settled into it after a couple years. Now she has a new neighbor, and his name is Dallas, and he actually ends up being the boys' baseball coach, but they butt heads a little bit. They don't really have the best kind of first meeting and interaction. These two become friends, and I just loved the connection that they developed in this book. I think Mariana Zapata does that so well because it's a slow burn romance. She's able to really develop the romance slowly and in such a natural way, and I just really loved that about Dallas and Diana's relationship, that they went from friends to becoming lovers and falling in love, and it was just such an easy kind of transition and a beautiful romance that these two have. I recommend Diana and Dallas enough. I want to reread this book now because it's been so long since I read it, but I remember me being completely obsessed after I read it, and it's just slow burn goodness that only Queen Mariana Zapata can pull off. Next book is That Kind of Guy by Talia Hibbert. This is the 3rd book in her Ravenswood series, so if you like to read books in order, you know, it's the 3rd book in the series. I've read the 2nd book and the 3rd book. A small town romance, and we're following Zach. So Zach has a reputation in the town for kind of being a man whore, getting around a lot, but he's actually trying to get away from that stereotype. Zach is actually demisexual. He really wants to really embrace what he's found out about himself. We're also following Ray. Has recently moved to Ravenswood. She just went through a divorce, and her and Zach become best friends. And Ray is older than Zach, so we do have a heroine who's older than a hero, which I love. I love that trope so much. We just don't get a lot of that, and people call it reverse age gap, and no. Just because a woman is something than a man, it doesn't mean that it's reverse. I hate that. It's a trigger. Anyway, Ray has to attend a convention. I want to mention that she's a writer, and she's been struggling with writing. But anyway, Ray has to attend a convention that her ex-husband is attending, and Zach offers to attend the convention with her, and they actually get closer, and they realize that there's something more than friendship between them. Ah, gosh, it's such a beautiful book. If you know anything about Talia Hibbert, then you know she's one of the best romance writers. We haven't gotten anything from her in quite a while, so if you loved her Brown Sisters series and you want more from her, I highly recommend the Ravenswood series, but this book in particular, we get the demisexual representation, and then our heroine also has POTS. So I just really love how intentional Talia Hibbert is about writing representation in her books, and she just does it so well and so naturally. And her romances, like the characters just feel so layered. They feel like, honestly, like real people, and it's just such a great journey and experience to read a Talia Hibbert book. So the last book is Managed by Kristen Callahan. This is a part of her VIP series. This is book number 2, part of her Rockstar romance, and upon making this list, again, I want to reread every single book I'm talking about, but I really want to go and finish this series because I'm just very curious about it. But Managed is, I believe, the book that everyone talks about. It's like Grumpy Sunshine, and it's just so good. So in this book, we're following Sophie. Sophie is on a flight, and she actually gets upgraded to first class. Our hero, Scotty, is actually pissed about this because he actually thought that he bought 2 seats so he could just have more room and be more comfortable. He has a fear of flying, and when Sophie picks up on this and she actually tries to make him feel very comfortable, and so she kind of, kind of picks with him, bickers with him. They have this hilarious meet cute. Like, you can already see the connection in their chemistry right off the bat. Oh, it is so freaking good. Okay, so anyway, while they're on the plane, they experience turbulence, so they kind of cuddle together. Scotty realizes that interviewed by the band that he manages because she works in social media and she's a photographer. And she gets the job and she actually tours with the band and with Scotty and travels with them. Now, Scotty has struggles with insomnia, and he realizes that when he is with Sophie, he can actually sleep better. So he proposes to her that she sleeps with him, not in that way, so that he can get some sleep on their tour. So obviously, it starts out with just sleeping together innocently, but not turns into like much more than that. Love this book. I absolutely love this book. This is most of the books that I've talked about are really pretty angsty, and this one is not, but it definitely has a lot of heart because they're heroine. They both feel very lonely. They're both very lonely characters. So I don't know, I just really liked that although this book is not sad, it's not angsty, but it does have a lot of heart with our characters, and they form a genuine connection. And like I said, they pretty much have chemistry right off the bat that you get to experience, and I just love that so much. It's one of my favorite meet cutes in any romance that I've ever read, still to this day. This one is like God tier, up there of one of the best meet cutes I've ever read. But this book is, especially if you like Grumpy Sunshine, this is one of the best Grumpy Sunshine books that you'll ever read. A beautiful and heartwarming romance, and I just loved reading about these two. This video, I had so much fun putting this list together. Please let me know if you've read any of these books. If you haven't, which ones maybe sound more interesting to you. I definitely want to read more backlist romances this year, and making this list just made me so excited because honestly, backlist books are the best books. There, I'm saying it, I'm putting it out there. I think we've made a lot of improvements and strides in romance, especially when it comes to diversity in romance. But I just miss these kind of stories. They just had so much heart, and like they were just so different. They weren't like trying to like check off a trope list. Like these books right here that I just talked about are like top tier romances, and there's so many more that I could have added to this list. So let me know if you want a part 2 or another round of these recommendations, because I have so many and I just didn't have time to put them in this video. But microphone emoji or something to do with like music, because the last book that we talked about was Managed, so I can know that you made it to the end of the video. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.